What's up, guys? We out here. This is Maylee Tao, your Donut Princess, and you're listening to Short and Sweet, a Donut Princess podcast. I bring on people who I find inspirational, whether they're entrepreneurs or huge leaders in their community, and I just want to uplift them, share their stories, and deliver the message that I resonate with as well. So today I have Hunny Hach here with me today. Thank you for coming today, and you came all the way from Long Beach, so I really appreciate that with all the LA traffic. Thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Well, thank you for having me. I truly appreciate. I've been following your podcast. I've been following all the guests that you've had on here, and I appreciate so much that you even invited me to be on your platform. A little bit about myself. I am a second-generation Cambodian-American. I am the first one born in America out of my family. And so I was born in San Diego, pretty much raised in Long Beach. So I've adapted into this always finding the ground between being Cambodian-American and how much is like too American, how much is like not Cambodian enough. So I feel like I identify with you on that aspect of us always trying to be in between this like intersectionality of being who we are. But basically grew up and raised in Long Beach. I started off not really in the Cambodian community, more of I am a DJ, so I started off DJing, and then the Cambodian community kind of heard about me because I started off in an all-girl group called Universal Speakers with DJ Hunny, way back in the day.
Love it.
With Pratt, she was part of the Majestic Records. And so we had this group, and they were like, oh my gosh, you want to be a DJ? And we're like rapper performers. We could totally create something together, and you could be like Spinderella for us, for the Cambodian community. And I was like, I'm down for it. And so, yeah, they were signed on Pratt's label, which was Majestic Records. So we performed together, did a bunch of different shows out in like Berkeley and San Diego. And I stopped because growing up in an Asian American family, your family is like, what are you doing with your life? Like, arts is not a thing. Arts is not a degree. Arts is not a way of life. So I stopped, and then I went to college, and I was like, okay, I should do something in the medical field. But it always pulled me back. It always called me back. So I pursued it again in about 2015 or so. I bought turntables again, relearned digital because I was on vinyl. Yeah. And then I started again. I got my first like nightclub gig 6 months after learning digital. Okay. And I ran with it. And then all of a sudden the Cambodian community in Long Beach heard about me, and they're like, who is this DJ? And she's Cambodian? And they're like, oh my gosh, we never heard of you. How long? I was like, I've been DJing for a while. It's just, it's a different industry. It's a different lifestyle. But when I finally got into the Cambodian community was when I finally felt as if I was at home. I was surrounded by a group of people that loved me and supported me regardless of everything else. So I think, that was my beginning of how I became a part of the community.
I mean, I loved so many things that you just shared right now, including the whole being neither here nor there. And I think that not only is when you're born in America, but, you have Cambodian parents, but also the way that our parents judge us for the things that we choose when we are in America. Our parents, they didn't really have a lot of choices. Right. But when we came here, the arts are a real career, a real profession, but they can't see that. Like, what were some of those like uphill battles of how you would explain to them like what DJing was?
No, like literally, my parents don't even call it DJing. They say, oh, like my daughter playing, which is when you translate it into English, it's like she plays music. Yeah. Like she plays music for a living, and I don't think they really gravitated as far as it being a real career until I started picking up gigs within the community or bigger venues. And I actually was even booked. Like, one of my goals was to go back and play in the motherland. And I was booked for a New Year's Eve gig. And I went home and I was like, man, I wish my parents could have been here to see me play this New Year's Eve gig in Phnom Penh. But the year after, they were able to make it, and I played in Siem Reap for the pub street.
Yeah.
And so they came out, and they brought my uncle, who's like never left the village really. And then so they came out with my cousins, and they were like, yeah, Hunny's doing this event, this gig, and they came out, and I felt like that was essentially when they realized, like, wow, like, this is really a career, like, this is really what she chose to do. And I'm so proud of her, because when they run into people in the community, and then they're like, oh, my daughter's Hunny, and they're like, oh, DJ Hunny? And they're like, yeah, DJ Hunny, that's my daughter. But before, it was never like, no, they didn't want to associate it with it. But I think after I made a path for myself, and then they realized, like, okay, this is not just a little hobby.
Yeah.
It's not just something that we're minding on the side of what she's doing. But when I started doing gigs for UCC, and like before Dr. Sulisaro was Councilwoman Sulisaro, she was doing events. I did her venues, and I did the mayor's events. And I think as I brought them out to more and more things, they started to see, like, wow, this is actually something as important as everything else that we've been layering on her.
Yeah.
So I think, when they saw me in Cambodia, I think that was my biggest point in my life, where I was like, my parents who had to leave their country and do what they had to do to survive, and now see that I've brought back home the energy and the level of the passion that I have for it. They're just like, wow, okay, we see it. We understand it.
What an amazing feeling, too. Yeah. Like, I bet, like, this uphill battle, it's really difficult, because you're like, I really enjoy this thing, but you guys can't see what it is or don't really understand it. But the minute you are able to think, okay, gotta play in the homeland and get that recognition from even the community here, and all these amazing events that you've been able to spearhead and do, like, your parents, they're probably like, oh, like, this is like, this is what it is. Yeah. And I mean, my mom too, like, when I introduced certain things that, our parents came from the Khmer Rouge, like, they missed out on a lot of their childhood. They missed out on a lot of what the arts was, since that was taken away from them. And I know that, remember when I was, coming back from college and helping my parents with DK's Donuts and creating social media accounts, my mom was just so confused as to what it was. She's like, why are you taking pictures of everything? Why are you videoing these things? Like, go back to work. Like, what are you doing? And it's, again, only until, I get a little momentum, and then there's recognition from it, and she saw more sales from it. Then she was like, oh, this is what it is. And it's so funny, because as it started to get more popular, she's like, well, why don't you just post on social media? And I was like, what? And she would say, like, she would talk to customers, and she'd be like, yeah, my daughter, she did social media, and now it's so busy. And it's really, really cute to see them kind of progress in their thinking, and show them that this is a totally different world that they also have to adapt to.
Exactly.
I'm so happy that you got to play on Pub Street too. Like, how epic was that? Like,
it was so much fun. I think I had to bring, like, certain equipment, and then I literally had to run out in the middle of the night because they didn't have the RC wires that I needed, and I was like, oh my gosh, because they were using, like, CDJs, and I was still on turntables, and I was like, oh my gosh. But the overall result of it was just so amazing to have my uncle there and my younger cousins that have never ventured out of Battambang to come out, and they were just like, oh wow, like, because it's crazy that my cousin also plays music for weddings. Like, they set up sound and stuff, so they always ask me, like, what do you use, because they can't get the same equipment as I do. But I was like, wow, I can't believe that spanning all these continents that we still do the same thing. Like, I'm a DJ and you do audio and sound for events and weddings. It's like, we technically do the same thing, but it's just a different mindset. But I'm just like, it's crazy. And my uncle was just like, wow, this is what Hunny does? Like, wow. And they brought her all the way over here, because I've done events from, like, here to Boston and, like, East Coast and stuff, but bringing it back home, it's it's a different feeling.
That was one for the books. And
Yeah.
like my dad's from Battambang.
Oh, okay.
And so when you say like your uncle who like never left the village, like I have the vision of just like the rice paddy fields, like just, you know, it's very farmlandy, it's very remote, like everybody kind of knows each other, but
Yes.
it's nothing compared to like Siem Reap as like Pub Street. Pub Street
Right.
is like another world for them.
Yeah.
So just that whole experience of them getting to see you play there must have been amazing.
It was.
And so, you know, you have been such a big community leader in the Long Beach community. How have you seen Long Beach change over the years? And like, what was it back then? Like, and what was it like now?
Man, I grew up in Long Beach. You know, I was born in the 80s, raised in the 90s. And being raised in the 90s in Eastside Long Beach was a lot of gang violence. Violence from Asian gangs versus Latina gangs and then versus black gangs. It was just such a lifestyle of like what we grew up in. And then the only thing was I was just a few years younger than my brother. So I have 4 older siblings. And then my 2 oldest brothers, I think, lived through gang violence so much that it's just something that they live through on the daily. My older brothers, especially my older brother, he actually like ran home from school every day so that he wouldn't get jumped. And then I actually witnessed my brother being chased when I was like 10 or 11 years old by a gang as well, because he was sitting in the car. He was sitting in my dad's car with me in the back seat. Then all of a sudden he just started yelling like, I gotta get out of the car. And I was just like, what's going on? And he jetted out of the car, and then I saw this guy just chasing him.
Oh my gosh.
And I was just like, oh my gosh. And then now, looking at it in hindsight, when I was younger, I didn't understand what it was. I didn't understand it was gang violence. I didn't understand he was being chased. I just saw a dude chasing my brother. That's all it was.
Right.
And then, you know, my older siblings have always created or tried to create an environment for us younger siblings to not want or need anything. You know, we were a low-income working class family, but I think they always felt the need to take care of my parents and then take care of us. So as I got older, I was accepted into like a middle school kind of outside the area. And my parents like, yes, you're going there.
Yeah.
You're going to get out of this area. You're going to do something different. Because I think it broke my mom's heart watching my brothers go through all this. You know, so they're like, you're going to get bused to school. You're going to go there for 3 years, whatever it is. And you're going to have a better life. And I was like, okay, like whatever it is. And I thrived. I loved it.
Yeah.
And I played every sport. I was in like student body. I just did everything I could to just enjoy life.
Yeah.
And I thrived. But then, eventually, I had to go to high school.
Yeah.
And when I got to high school, was when my family kind of moved out of the east side. So we moved to, like, the west side of Long Beach. Which wasn't the best area, but it was like a better area than East Side, because East Side is just so compacted with so many different communities trying to survive, like on top of each other. It's like, you know, you're just stacking people on top of each other. It's hard to live like that.
Yes.
So I moved away, and then I went to Poly, which was a multicultural high school. But that was the first time I ever was faced with the realization that, oh, I am Asian. Yeah. I'm not white, because I went to an all-white middle school, and I was like, man, okay, like, I didn't feel the difference. I felt so accepting in the community in middle school. And then when I went to high school, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm Cambodian. Like, I'm Cambodian-American. Like, I speak Cambodian.
Yeah.
I speak Cambodian to my parents. But I felt like there was such a disconnect.
Yeah.
Because they grew up in that east side of Long Beach for all of their life, and they were like, what do you mean you play soccer? That's not what Cambodians do. Like, and I was just like, but that's what I do.
Yeah, you're like, I'm Cambodian.
Yeah, like, I'm Cambodian. And I played ASO, and I went to middle school, and I did this. I played basketball, I played volleyball, like whatever it was I could do, I did it.
Yeah.
So then I started to shun away, like, the identity that I created for myself in middle school, because I felt like they're not accepting me, so that must not be me. Right. Like, I must assimilate with these Cambodians that are telling me this is what Cambodians are like.
Yeah.
So high school was really tough for me. Oh my gosh. I, like, freshman year and sophomore year, I did okay. I was still playing soccer. I made it to JV, and then I dropped out my sophomore year because I just felt like I didn't fit in anywhere. I didn't fit in as a Cambodian student at Poly. I didn't fit in as, like, a student that came out from the other side of town. I was so lost. And then I was like, I don't know. Like, my parents were like, are you dating? I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't feel like I'm dating. So then I came to the realization that I was like, you might not be straight. And I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So it's like all these things pulling at me. So I think high school was like the biggest struggle of my life. And it sucks because high school is supposed to be the best time of your life. But for me, it was like one of my biggest struggles.
Yeah.
Just finding my identity and refining it again. And then realizing, like, what is it that really makes me me?
Yeah.
So yeah, high school was really tough, but I felt like I did it. I did it the best that I could, but I wish that there were things or resources that I could have reached that I could have been like, hey, you can be Cambodian without being the identity of what other Cambodians identify as, because Cambodian is just whatever it is you identify as.
Yeah.
You can be whatever it is, because I felt like I speak Cambodian better than most Cambodians in my generation.
Yes.
But yet they tell me that I'm not Cambodian. So I was just like, I was so lost for such a long part of time. But I was just like, man, I just got to get through it.
Yeah.
So I did.
And you got through it.
I got through it.
And thank you for sharing all of that, because I feel that you are just one of the examples of people who struggle with this identity, and especially Cambodian Americans, especially because I feel like this whole identity thing also came from the motherland of, like, displaced people, and then coming here, and then, your whole journey is, I definitely think, like, I don't blame you for being confused. Like, you're trying to fit in, but you have your identity from middle school.
Right.
You're like excelling here, and then you come and you're like, wait, oh, you guys aren't like this,
Right.
but I want to be like you. But then
Right.
you're like, I'm not like them. And I think, in high school, there's just a lot of this where you want to fit in and be a part of the group, but these definitions are really, like, undefined. And it's
Right.
always like, am I enough of a certain category? And I'm so glad that you were able to figure it out. But I think what's so beautiful that has come out of this was she was looking to find a belonging and resources. And if there wasn't one that existed, she created one for herself and for her community. Could you tell us a little bit about Khmer?
Sure. So that's actually the perfect way to point it out. Was I actually took a nonprofit workshop, and the one thing they pressed upon was that how nonprofits begin is that when there's not a way or a resource, you create it. So I created Qhmer, which is Khmer with a Q, basically because when I got married to my partner in 2017, there was just abundance of messages that were being sent to me, like, oh my gosh, it is so amazing to see a gay couple being married. I would never have imagined that you would have been married in the Cambodian tradition. And prior to that, I didn't think it was a thing. I just thought, I'm going to marry my partner. I proposed to her. I asked her for 1 year to save up for the wedding. And then we started preparing for it. And then I realized, like, wow, okay, there is a need. There is this group of people who resonate with me that are just saying that we're not being seen. And we didn't know that there was you out there. So when they reached out, these diasporas from all over, I'm talking about like Australia and New Zealand, that were messaging me like, we saw your video. It's amazing to see you get married in our tradition. Many blessings to you. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do something. There has to be something going on. I did a bit of research. There are a couple of other organizations out there, but nothing that I thought that resonated with me, or that I wanted the message to be out there the way that I thought it should be represented. So one day in my garage, I went to my co-founder now, and my co-founder, and I said, hey, so I've been getting all these messages. So what do you think about creating a queer Khmer Alliance plus allies, just to showcase like positive representation for us? And she was like, all right, let's do it. Like, let's do it. And I was like, all right. So we just like created this logo. We digitally sent it to like a designer. We did it. And we were like, okay, what is our mission? What is our vision? And then I expressed to her, I was like, well, my goal is to bring to people in our community and outside of our communities a positive representation of queer Khmer people. Because I feel like there's none out there, or there's none out there that's being seen or heard.
Yeah.
So what can we do about it? And then we thought the best way to spearhead that was with this idea that I came with, which is called Coming Out Khmer, which is where I share stories of other gay and LGBTQ plus folks in our community and their coming out stories.
Yeah.
Because I think, you know, you see Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, and you see all these different TV shows.
Such a different representation, though.
So different, because as Asians and Southeast Asians, we are so much about our families in our forefront. And we're always about putting ourselves almost as like second tier.
Absolutely.
And our needs and our wants. You know, like, this is what I am, but what is it my parents want? What is it that they need? And then with Coming Out Khmer, it's showing the basis that no matter where you come out in life, whether it's 18 or 27 or 34, wherever it is in your life, professionally, personally, we are here to understand that those stories still mean something, and there's still a message that needs to be heard by everybody.
Yeah.
So that's what Coming Out Khmer represented, and then that's how we did our soft launch with Khmer. And it just so happened that right after we launched was COVID. So we had to take this like 2-year hiatus. But I think what made it so much better for us was just the outpour of people that reached out. For those few episodes that we put out on YouTube, so many people were reaching out with just like, oh my gosh, I resonate so much. Thank you for this platform. Like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm just like, no, thank you for listening. Thank you for understanding. Like, we are a community within our communities.
Yeah.
But the more our stories get heard, the more unusual it is. I feel like in the Cambodian community, I can't speak for all communities. I've only been out to, you know, Long Beach community, and I went out to Seattle for an event that they did. But the way that they accepted us and they understood, I feel like I was everybody's sister. I was everybody's daughter. I was everybody's niece. And I want that to be for every person that wants to come out when they're ready. It's like, we are here for you. We're here as a community, no matter how far and wide. And it's about creating our own tribe and creating the platform to share that and resonate with each other and having that safe space.
That is so powerful, and I think it's so amazing that it sounded like this tribe kind of just came to you, and it took you as a leader to spearhead this, because I'm sure that there's a lot of fear when you haven't come out yet, and your family, like you said, is very judgmental and very traditional. There is no space that is created for this community, and you created that space. And that's such an incredible thing that you've completed in this life, amongst all the other amazing things that you've done. And I would say, you know, it's truly a beautiful thing what you said of, you know, connecting with these communities and seeing yourself as family to these people. And I can just imagine what a difference that you've made for people who have come out yet, have not come out yet, or hear these stories and feel inspired to be them.
Right.
And, you know, the whole identity issue that we were talking about before, like, you're the person who created this community, and now you give these people a place to thrive. You give people a place to share. And I agree that through sharing stories and through sharing experiences, you start to feel like this is okay, you know, even if the rest of the world is not on board yet, you know, it takes just like these stories that we share, this one by one, these connections, and I think that is completely beautiful, and I'm so proud of you for that.
Oh, thank you. I think you're that connection. I think you're that connection that's creating this. I don't think you realize that, like, these are the steps we're making for each other, you know?
Yeah.
And these are the hands we're holding and creating these bridges for all of our communities.
Yeah, no, it's so incredible. And if people want to, if people are listening to this and they're resonating with this and they want to be a part of the Alliance, what is the website that they can visit for this?
Yeah, you can go to khmer.org, which is QHMER.org.
Perfect.
And I think we're getting ready to relaunch ourselves now that the pandemic's officially not a pandemic anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm actually hosting like my first queer Khmer New Year event for this upcoming New Year for us with the Long Beach Lesbian, Gay, and Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
On April 13th. But I think I was like really hesitant about it. But at the same time, like when I mentioned to you, it's like I'm always nervous about things because I feel like there's so many roles that I carry, like so many hats that I wear.
Yeah.
But when they approached me about it, I thought, you know what better time to relaunch than now? Because as a board, we've been so long trying to still be a part of everything. We were at the last the Long Beach Pride Parade, and it's just about consistently creating these images for people to see and hear and understand that we are here. And I think that's so important for our communities to be able to see that and hear that.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about how that all happened, like from the beginning. Like, tell me the beginning part.
The beginning part is basically growing up in Long Beach. It's crazy to think about it now that you're asking me because when I went to middle school, I had to take the school bus because it was outside of my district. For 3 years, I took the bus right across the street from where my laundromat is right now. That's how much in the community it is.
Wow.
So when the laundromat first was being sold or in the process of it, the owner actually talked to my dad. My dad actually managed his laundromat for like 15 years. My dad is now retired. So he talked to my dad and was like, I want to sell it to you. And my dad was like, oh, I don't know. But then he talked to me about it. He's like, what do you think? These are the numbers. And so I was like, you know what? Let me think about it, Dad. So I took the numbers, I crunched it, and I was like, could I really do this on my own? Because at first he was like, maybe you should talk to your siblings about it. But I crunched the numbers, and I was like, I think this is doable for me.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what, Dad? I think I'm going to do it. I saved up for 6 months after that. I bought it. So I thought about this in December of 2022 or 20, yeah. And then I bought it in June of last year. So I saved it for 6 months, bought it from him. Mostly because, one, for my dad to even talk to me about it, I knew it meant something to him.
Yeah.
It was like, I worked here. I want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And then 2 was like, I want to be a part of my community because the worst things I've heard about Long Beach was like all this gentrification that's been going on. These corporations coming in and buying everything out, kicking out all these mom and pop shops. And I was like, I don't want that to be this. Yeah. So I took the opportunity to say, yeah, I'm going to do it. So I saved up. I bought it. I'm going on 9 months now. It's been insane, but it's been a process that has just made me look at life from this perspective, and I've enjoyed every moment of it, you know. But that's the beginning stages of.
Did you know anything about laundry machines?
Nope.
Or running a business?
No.
Or anything that's really associated with a laundromat?
Not with a laundromat. I mean, personally, like finances and numbers, yes, I had my entertainment company that I've worked with, but those were numbers based on the services that we provided, but I've never owned like a brick and mortar shop. So for this to happen, I was very doubtful, but I was also very confident in myself as a leader, one, and also knowing the organizational skills that I have and financially understanding what numbers look like. I think that's the one thing that's universal in every language. Numbers don't lie. No matter how it's written, a 1 is always 1 in every language.
Right.
So when I saw those numbers, I calculated and I said, okay, this is doable. This is doable by me. So that was the biggest thing that pushed me to say, yeah, you should do it. And of course I sat with my partner. I was like, I think this is what I want to do. And she was like, well, if that's what you want to do, you know, I can't stop you from doing it. So you do it. So
Yeah.
I knew nothing about
partner.
it. I don't know anything about laundromats. I don't know anything about that. All I know is my ability to pursue something and learn.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a fast learner. I was like, I can learn to fix things. I can learn to manage things. How can I make this more easier for myself? So that's what I did.
And I love how, you know, you use social media to also share the Tuesday tip. Tell us a little bit about how that came to be. And, you know, to me, it sounds like you're really enjoying the Tuesday tip. I don't know.
I love Tuesday tips, which now has also grown to Q&As. But I think it's because when I first started sharing about my experience as far as like my successes and my struggles, there are so many people reaching out with questions and their doubts of like, I've always wanted to own a laundromat, or I've always wanted to do this, and I've always wanted to do that. And my thing was, what's holding you back?
Yeah.
So my mindset was, well, instead of me answering each person individually over and over again, how can I send this to the masses? So I thought, okay, maybe I should do this in a video in a response to the things that I'm going through, and people can relate to it. And then my Q&A sessions came from people asking me the same questions, or just asking me questions in general, and then I could just answer them. And then people could see it across all platforms. But my Tuesday tips came because there were so many different things that I struggled with as far as labor, as far as maintenance. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to share this because if you're going through the same struggles as me, or even if you're not, I hope you see from my journey that the outcome is always better than the difficulty that we went through. Right. But I feel like there's so many stories out there from different entrepreneurs that I look up to within my community that I was like, oh my gosh, if I would have seen their beginning stages and would have been able to see where they are now, that's the biggest thing, just to know, like, man, they started here and now they're here. I'm here, still growing. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize, is that what you see now, like, people are like, oh, Hunny owns a laundromat, and they don't realize that, yeah, but I saved up to buy that laundromat like many, many, many months before. I only spoke about it when I first signed that contract, and I sent the check over, and I was like, yeah, it's mine. But the journey before that was a struggle. Just calculating and saving and penny pinching, not going out to eat dinners and doing things like that, you know? Yeah. So that's the journey.
Yeah, I think a big misconception with entrepreneurs is with people only see like the highlights, right? On social media, it's like the best life, right?
Right.
But they don't know like how much struggle goes before, during, and after all of it. And that includes, you know, even your day-to-day. Like, what's your day-to-day like?
My day-to-day is pretty insane. I wake up at 5 a.m. every day, 7 days a week. No holidays unless we're only closed for Thanksgiving Day and Christmas, which I'm trying to do Christmas Eve. But I wake up, I go to my shop, I open up, because we open at 6 a.m. every day. So depending on what it is I need to do for the day, whether it's collecting or refilling, and then just checking on everything. And then that's not including supplies. Like today I did a morning run to go to Spartan Final to refill my vending machines. And then I also have a 9-to-5 job where people are like, what, you work? I'm like, yeah, I work for UCC, the United Cambodian Community, which I recently took upon this, like, past Thanksgiving. I think I went through a really downslope of just depression after losing my mom and my brother. And I just was scrambling for something to be attainable. Right. And then when UCC came about and they had the position open, and it just felt like coming home. So then I accepted the position. I do a walk-in day on Thursdays where I work with people in the community, where I read letters for like and Fu and Ming. And I just think about like, wow, if we weren't here and they are single people and they don't have kids or grandkids, I was like, I always think about my mom.
Yeah.
Like, these are the people I'm helping. So then I do my 9 to 5. And then I have my family life and my personal life. But it's all about organizing and keeping everything maintained. But my day is very long. But it's also very fulfilling in everything that I do.
Yeah, it sounds like you've, really refined the time management in your life. But in so many things that you do, you constantly redefine what home is, no matter what happens in your life. And that is not only courageous, but it's so generous for the community and for yourself. I always ask this question to entrepreneurs too, is like, do you find that your life is more stressful now or more fulfilling because you have your own things going on?
I think, yes, life is stressful because on my entrepreneur side, every decision that I make falls on me. However, it's more fulfilling because I get to see the decisions that I made come to fruition. So it's like, I said yes to this, now I get to see that happen. I said no to this, now I get to see that happen. But for some folks, that might not be for them. Like, the mindset that I have might not be for all. But I think if you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, or if you're thinking about starting a small business or a side hustle, just think about it. Like, every day you make the decision to wake up, and every day the decision you make leads to something else. And when you get to see that happen, that's the best thing in life, just to see that happen. And I think that's what I get. My biggest takeaway from after buying my shop is that I've gotten that much closer to my dad from him sharing with me, like, oh, like, let's work on this machine today. Or I need this. Like, never before ever would he have ever expressed his wants and needs to me.
Yeah.
But now that we're working on this together in a partnership, he's like, oh, okay, like, why don't we do this? Or why don't we fix this? Or why don't we do this? Or I'll share with him, like, I want to move this out. I want to upgrade this. I was like, Dad, customers are constantly looking for something clean and new. There's this thing called Google reviews. There's this thing called Yelp, and he's like, I don't know what that means. But I was like, but yeah, this is what people are looking at nowadays. And I think, yes, it's stressful, but at the end of the day, the rewards are more fulfilling because it's what you wanted for yourself.
Right. And, with all the responsibilities that you have, I think it's really a really, really beautiful thing that you shared with your dad, is that you get to now have these experiences together. You can learn from him. I know when I was working with my mom at DK's, it was like, there's some times where you like get really like, I should do it this way, you should do it this way. But all in all, this is like the time that you don't get back. And This is the time that a lot of people don't get to have with their parents. And just also seeing how they think is just so cool. And seeing their personality shine. And I as much as like the grind is the grind, having that family time is irreplaceable, and it is so heartwarming. And I'm glad you get to share that with your dad. And family business, I always talk about it, that it's very, very difficult sometimes, but it's also very rewarding. And it's also, a big part of, what some people define as success. You get to not only build a livelihood for yourself, but also hang out with your family and make an impact on your community. We're going to get to my favorite part of my podcast, which is the 5 golden nuggets. So I would love for you to share about 5 golden nuggets about, that's something you can give to business owners who are just starting out.
I think my 5 golden nuggets would be patience. I think my first one would be patience, because you have to be patient with yourself. You have to be patient with your journey. And you have to understand that, of course, people are going to have trial and error. And then it's a lesson that you learn. But it's not just a lesson. It's about how you approach that situation again. Because it's going to happen again. It's about teaching you that different approach and being patient with how you respond. So I think that's my biggest thing with myself, is always reminding myself daily, is be patient with you and your decisions. Stand by it. Like, you have enough experience to know that it's gonna eventually work out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Number 2 for me will probably be journaling. I've never really journaled in my life, and I'm not talking about like Dear Diary, but it's more, I do what's called like bullet journaling, and I do it weekly and I do it monthly, but it's about holding yourself accountable. It's about setting these check boxes on your daily planner and understanding, like, today I do this, this, and this, and this. Okay, I hit it, I didn't. And moving that forward. Because sometimes the thing we do for the things that we're hardest on ourselves is that not seeing that we have progressed. And I think that's what bullet journaling has done for me. It's showing me that, like, if I have 5 check boxes, I've marked off 4. Hey, 4 out of 5 isn't bad.
Yeah.
You're progressing.
Right.
Let's move forward with the next month. Let's move forward with the next week. You know what I mean? And that also goes with my number 3 nugget, which would be not comparing myself or my progress to somebody else's.
Such a big one.
Big thing.
We do it and we don't even know we do it.
So one of the biggest quotes I always think about over and over again is, don't compare your chapter 11 or your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 11.
So good.
And it stays in the back of my mind because I do it consistently. I'm like, oh man, look at that. Or look at, they have those many machines, or, you know, but it's like, you understand, like, you're only seeing the progress that's already been completed. And I think we're always hardest on ourselves. So I think that's my 3rd nugget, but I should feel like that's like my biggest nugget. Like, that's my biggest golden nugget.
The shiniest
like,
one.
yeah, that's the biggest one right there. Being from California, like, that's my golden nugget. And then my 4th one would be creating a network and a connection inside and outside of my community. Most importantly, inside, because you always want to grow from within. But I think most people don't realize that when you grow outside of your network, you're bringing so many resources from outside that you didn't know you could have. And now you have a plethora of things that you can work from. And I think that's the biggest thing for small businesses. And, you know, I'm always about shop local, shop small. So I think that's the biggest thing. Like, whether you're from Long Beach, because I'm from Long Beach, so it's like Long Beach, Lakewood, Signal Hill, LA, like all those communities can so grow from each other, because we have this large amount of resources coming to us. We just need to build those bridges. And then my 5th one would be to be the change you want to see. You know what I mean? I think that's how I created Khmer, was that I felt like there was a need and there was a big desire for an LGBTQ plus organization. So I created it with my little laundromat that's really tiny. But I felt like I wanted to be a part of the community. And if these people, like my dad didn't even want me to buy a recycle bin, because he was like, they don't know how to recycle. And I was like, Dad, let's show them how to recycle.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be the change. I wanted the people to be from that community, to understand that, have pride in the service that I provide you, and know that you won't always be here. You know, you're always going to move forward.
Yeah.
And there will always be somebody to replace you. But by all means, let's create a good space for them. You know, I know, like, a laundromat isn't like the ideal dream that most people have, but I feel like it's such an important resource, and that could be applied across the board to anything that you own or have. And so that's why I've always been like, be the change. If you feel like you want to make your community more proud, then by all means, come back in and invest in your community. Come back in and buy something and create the resources that they need. So that's what I did.
So well spoken, and I'm just so inspired by you.
Thank you.
I cannot wait to see what other things that you dip your hands into, but I just know that you are a force to be reckoned with. You dropped some major gems in this podcast. Where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
Sure. So you can actually go on my website. It's hunnyhach.com, which is HUNNYHHACH.com. It's like honey, like Pooh's honey.
Love it.
People always say that to me. But you can also find me on Instagram with Bad Hunny, which is BADXHUNNY. And the name actually came about from me DJing, and then people always called me like, oh, you know I'm at, like, you know I'm at. And then at first I shunned it, and I was like, no, I don't want to be that bad influence on people. But then I think when I started to really create myself outside of just DJing, I realized, like, you know what? I am who I am, and I embrace all of me. So I was like, forget it. I'm going to change my name. Because it used to be DJ Honey, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to be Bad Honey.
Yeah, you are a baddie. Seriously.
Yeah,
the definition of a baddie.
You just got to do it sometimes. you got to be bad to make a difference sometimes. You got to make those changes. So that's my Instagram, and that's my, I think, TikTok. I don't think I have any of the social medias other than that, but...
Love it. And if you guys are ever in Long Beach, support your local laundromat. Yeah. You will probably see DJ Hunny out there. She has graciously offered anybody who's listened to this podcast $100 off a production of an event in the future. So reach out to her and mention Donut Princess. If you guys love this episode, please like and subscribe. And I can't wait to show you who else is next on my podcast next. So holla at your girl.